Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 7 of War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron characters and TFP. Now, let's not waste any more time, and let's get started on Season 2. We see the bots trying to find a way to get to Cybertron, but with no such luck. Meanwhile, Megatron is trying to see if the Matrix has any way to be restored, but there's no leads. Soon the Khans attack a military base, but the Khans use the distraction of killing humans and putting them in danger, causing the Autobots to go and save the humans, thus allowing them to escape. And RC isn't able to go through the space bridge because there's more Khans here that would distract her. At the Ark, all the bots are beginning to fight with each other over what's going on, but Jazz manages to pull everyone together and says him and Jetfire will be taking command while they search around the world for the Khan space bridge. At the Nemesis, Thundercracker is uneasy about Optimus being in captivity, as he believes Megatron shouldn't have the matrix of leadership, but keeps quiet. Soon, Blackout and Demolisher go to Prime's cell and start to beat him up while he's cuffed and can't fight back, with it only stopping when Thundercracker intervenes, telling him off. A few days later, the bots get an anonymous message to meet in a forest. When Ratchet and Bulkhead and Jazz get there, they find Thundercracker. He explains everything that's been going on with Prime, and how he never approved of beating or killing prisoners, as he told them once about Cliffjumper. So, he gives them something, the location of the space bridge, before leaving. The bots wonder if they could trust him, but decide to trust him after giving the space bridge location and what he told them about Cliffjumper. The bots would head there and take control of the space bridge, allowing Jazz, RC, and Prowl to head to Cybertron, while the others protect the space bridge from the Khans. The three finally arrive on Cybertron and mourn the loss of it, before following the key direction to Kaon, where a tunnel opens up underground, but they would be attacked by Kickback and a brood of his Insecticons. Jazz heads in while the other two hold off the Insecticons. Meanwhile, with the Nemesis, Thundercracker returns and heads to the cells and tells Optimus he's going to get him out of there, but at that moment, he is surrounded by the Decepticons, with Megatron saying, "Did he expect not to be found out?" To which Soundwave plays a recording of Thundercracker meeting with the Autobots. He is grabbed by Megatron saying, "Tyranny will no longer be accepted." But then, Soundwave gets a signal from Cybertron from some of their sentries activating. Megatron tells the Decepticons to head to the space bridge, but for Dragstrip, Deadend, and Frenzy to watch Thundercracker and Optimus. RC and Prowl struggle with the Insecticons as they are outnumbered and outmatched. But then, one of the Insecticons charges at them, but is grabbed in the air by a flying bot. Everyone's confused until they hear animalistic dinosaur roars as they turn to see the Dinobots arrive and shred through the Insecticons. RC takes a moment to head inside while Prowl explains everything to the Dinobots as Sludge kills Kickback. Jazz gets the key into Vector Sigma, but is soon attacked by the Scraplets. But RC arrives and gets their attention, driving out, leading most of them out, allowing Jazz to finish off the rest of them and get the key downloaded. At the bridge, Megatron and the rest of the Khans arrive, with the bots holding the line, but are becoming outnumbered and outgunned, with the aerial bots not being able to combine or fly, and risk of collapsing or crashing into the cavern's walls. RC over comms warns Prowl and the Dinobots about the incoming Scraplets, but Prowl and the Dinobots get an idea and set a trap, blowing up the Scraplets. Jazz meets up, and Prowl says something that shocks them. He's going to be staying behind, as with the synthetic energon formula, he can help the remaining Autobots on Cybertron, and says this is the only chance they may have ever to do this. RC and Jazz accept this, but then they are surprised when Grimlock steps up and says he will be coming back to Earth with them, but not his team, as they need to protect Prowl to get that formula to the others and protect Cybertron. To which the other Dinobots agree, as Slag promises to lead in Grimlock's absence. RC and Jazz accept this, and so them and Grimlock make their way to the space bridge portal. On the Nemesis, Thundercracker tries to reason with the three cons, but they get tired of him and so begin beating him down. Optimus sees and tries to get them to stop, but they don't listen, so Optimus uses all of his strength to break the cuffs and then break out of his cell, and he faces off with them, taking them down. He helps Thundercracker up, who thanks him, and so they head to a nearby computer, activating a ground bridge. But when Optimus turns to Thundercracker tells him to go. Optimus extends his hand to ask if he will be joining him, but Thundercracker says that he may be leaving the Decepticons, but he's not quite there to join his side. But he does give Prime a flash drive before he leaves and wishes him luck. Optimus smiles and thanks him before going through the portal. The bots would fall, being captured by the Decepticons, with Megatron waiting for the group to Cybertron to arrive, but a ground bridge opens with Optimus arriving, to which Megatron mocks him about not having the Matrix or being a Prime, but Optimus says he doesn't need the Matrix to be the Prime that he is needed. With the two fighting, Optimus manages to hold his own a lot more better than in canon, but he is eventually knocked back. But when Meg points his fusion cannon at him, he turns when he hears a roar, and Grimlock in Dinobot mode comes through and bites down on Megatron's arm, with RC coming in and firing at him. The other bots take the opportunity to take on the cons. Jazz walks to Prime with Optimus saying, "Jazz," with Jazz saying, "It's time to take them down like old times," with Optimus grabbing his hand, and they charge at Megatron and aid in taking him down with Grimlock. Optimus does manage to grab Megatron's chest and manages to rip the Matrix out of him. And so Jazz takes a moment to restore the wisdom of the Matrix, and Optimus' memories returned. Optimus is surprised by where they are and that Grimlock is here, but is glad as he helps him with Megatron further, and Megatron is taken down for the moment. Jazz opens a ground bridge, allowing for them to escape. Megatron, though, is furious, as not only is Optimus back, but they also got that beast with them. At the Ark, everyone celebrates Prime being back, but all wonder where Prowl is and why Grimlock is here. RC and Jazz explain, with everybody understanding why he stayed behind. And Optimus is glad for him doing that, as their brothers and sisters will have the hope they need, finally. Grimlock sees all this celebration, but walks away to another corridor, with Optimus noticing, and he goes to him. There, they begin to have a talk about their differences between them, with Grimlock arguing Prime was weak for not facing the cons, and how he should have finished Megatron off eons ago. Optimus would have argued in the past, but after all they've been through lately, he isn't so sure, with him explaining that recently he's been thinking about killing Megatron, and how he was wrong about sparing him so many times. But he does say that not all the cons deserve to die, due to what Thundercracker has shown for them, including Breakdown as well a few times. But Grimlock says that one Decepticon who's going soft isn't a tale for the rest. But Prime says, while that is true, for one to learn better may show others that doing the same is possible. Grimlock scoffs at this, but says he is willing to help him and the others, but only for the best of their people and Cybertron, and to defeat the Decepticons. Optimus accepts this, but says in time he hopes to unite them as they were once before. Sometime later, Optimus checks the flash drive and sees it is the data for the Iacon Hall of Records. He begins to decode them. At the Nemesis, Megatron yells that his 3 Decepticons are failing him, with Frenzy arguing, but Megatron growls at him that he only is keeping them alive because he needs all of the cons he can get, and that with the Autobots' new bot, he expects them all to be on their best performance, and to give all, or they will not be given another chance to live. We see Thundercracker somewhere else, in a rock valley, where he tears off his Decepticon logos and says, "I have gained a clear understanding of my place in this universe, of who I am, of who I was always meant to be. Thundercracker, second in command to no one, Decepticon no more, follower to no one." Sometime later, as Optimus is decoding the Iacon files, The other Autobots begin asking Grimlock about what's been going on Cybertron, especially Jetfire since he isn't so sure anymore. So Grimlock begins to tell them. Many years ago, after Magnus left, many of the bots and cons would go underground. Grimlock and the Dinobots set up a settlement with a few other surviving Autobots, with Warpath, Scrounge, and Hound, and many Autotroopers among Grimlock's settlement. And over the years, the fight would cease. Well, besides Shockwave's remaining loyalists, the Forge, still giving them some trouble every now and again, while Starscream's forces stayed to the surface, taking all the Energon left there and in the early crusts of the planet's surface. But Jetfire had his group that would stay up there to hold them off from reaching the settlements. Some time ago, Snarl and Sludge would go to one of the new settlements, Last Spark, which started facing murders, later turned out to be cannibalism by none other than their leader, Airwave, leading to a fight resulting in his death, with Firestar taking over the settlement. But recently, they got seismic activity all over the planet, as the dead would begin rising, and the Dinobots and others would fight through them to take them out. But they would notice them heading to the space bridge, along with Starscream and his remaining followers, and Jetfire would go up there as well and disappear. The Dinobots would spend more time by the surface, checking for more weird activity, until Kickback and his group came out of hiding, and they attacked RC, Jazz, and Prowl, with the Dinobots arriving, and the rest is history. Soon, Optimus finishes decoding 3 of the first coordinates of the Icon relics, so sends 3 teams after them. Soundwave, with the help of Skywarp and Starscream, would decode the first 3 as well. Due to the Seekers' work on Trypticon Station, they had access to files and decoding methods that were high up in the government of Cybertron, so they would be able to help. With Megatron sending 3 teams as well after them. Con Team 1 gets to the first one, Megatron, Soundwave, Demolisher, Laserbeak, Frenzy, and several Viacons, with Optimus' team arriving not too long after, Optimus, Bumblebee, Ratchet, Springer, and several Autotroopers. When Optimus demands him to give the relic, Megatron holds up the Spark Extractor and threatens to use it, but when he tries walking away, Springer comes out and fires towards him and manages to grab it. Soundwave tries to attack, but Bumblebee gets the drop on him. Ratchet and Optimus hold off Demolisher, and Springer manages to get out with the rest of the team, getting out with Megatron furious at the loss of the Spark Extractor. The Bots' second team arrives at the second relic, RC, Bulkhead, Jazz, Sideswipe, and several Autotroopers, and they get it, discovering it's some sort of weird rod, but when they try to exit the cave, they are attacked by the Cons Team 2, Arachnid, Dragstrip, Dead End, Breakdown, Knockout, and several Viacons. The bots try to keep the relic by tossing it around, but Arachnid would eventually anger RC with mentioning Tailgate, which caused her to do a risky attack, allowing Arachnid to grab her. Arachnid threatens to kill her if they don't hand the relic over, so the bots have no choice, with Sideswipe handing it over to her. Arachnid lets go of RC and says pleasure doing business as she leaves. The next relic, the final team of cons, arrive first. Starscream, Skywarp, Slipstream, Blackout, Barricade, and several Viacons, and begin to dig it out. But the bots arrive soon after. Jetfire, Silverbolt, Air Raid, Skydive, Slingshot, Fireflight, Grimlock, and several Autotroopers get there. And they see it is the Forge of Solus Prime, with Grimlock remembering Alpha Trion using it, and just how powerful it can be. So, he charges in without hesitation, and starts tearing through the Viacons, with him turning into Dinobot mode. He grabs Blackout by the leg and slams him down before stepping on him. Blackout is terrified, but Grimlock is bloodlusted, and so rips him apart, killing Blackout. Starscream orders Skywarp and Barricade to get the Forge out of there, as he has a plan. Starscream flies near Grimlock and starts insulting him, and reminding him of the time Shockwave had imprisoned and experimented on, and how if it wasn't for him, Grimlock would be rotting to this day as an experiment. Grimlock goes into his angry, raging phase, with him being unable to control himself as his rage takes over, and he attacks anyone that comes near him, including some of the Autotroopers, killing one of them, with the area bots combining into Superion to hold him down, but the cons manage to get away with the Forge. Grimlock eventually calms down, with him seeing what he's done, and how he let his rage get the best of him, and it costed them the Forge. And during this time, Mech is at work with the 2 bodies they got from the Harvester, so they actually have no need to get Bumblebee's T-Cog or take him out to study. So Bumblebee doesn't get taken out here. Plus, they also find some traces of Energon within the Sound Blaster's body, and so that gives them everything they need to make their own machines. At the Ark, the bots overall feel like they didn't do well, as they lost the last 2 relics, and some of the other bots blame Grimlock for getting blinded by his rage, for why they lost the Forge, but Optimus stands up for him, as none of them could truly understand the pain Grimlock felt from Shockwave, but he does say for now Grimlock should stay at base until he can gain more control of himself, with Grimlock unfortunately agreeing with him. At the Nemesis, Megatron at first is impressed by the fact they retrieved 2 of the relics, but is mad they lost the Spark Extractor and of the death of Blackout. But once he sees he cannot use the Forge, he's even more enraged and knows that they only now have 1 useful relic, but does say they must keep it far away from Optimus Prime as much as they can. He also allows Knockout to keep the force field generator, as it could help him become a better fighter. Soon the bots get a message from Fowler, who shows 2 bots duking it out outside of Omaha. They see it's Wheeljack, and then Dreadwing, the brother of Skyquake. The bots arrive, with Wheeljack glad to see them, as Dreadwing scans Fowler's jet and makes his escape. Wheeljack still blows up the gas station, and so the bots aren't too happy with him about that. At base, Wheeljack sees Springer and Grimlock, along with Jetfire, because last time Jetfire was still in recovery for his injuries, so they never had a chance to talk. Wheeljack says to Perceptor, Bulkhead, Springer, and Jetfire, it's good to see them again, as after recently he wasn't sure there were that many wreckers left. They ask him why, with Wheeljack explaining what happened since he left. Sometime after he left Earth, he made his way back to Cybertron, as after hearing Jetfire was on Cybertron, he knew that would be probably the best place to look for more wreckers that got left behind. When he arrives, he didn't find anything at first, until he ran into 5 bots: Impactor, Whirl, Twin Twist, Roadbuster, and Topspin. However, the meeting was short-lived, as they would get ambushed by the Combaticons, who would fight them until they combined into Bruticus. So, Impactor gave the word to combine into Ruination. The 2 combiners fight, but during the fight, Bruticus mentions how they killed Pyro, and now they killed them. Bruticus managed to get a gut stab on Ruination, ripping Twin Twist's limb off and then Roadbuster's limb off next, before finishing off Impactor's chest part. Wheeljack is furious but knows he can't die here, so to his disheart, he manages to escape and has to leave his friends behind, believing they are all dead. Sometime later, he did manage to get into contact with Sea Spray, but when they are about to meet up, Sea Spray would blow up from Dreadwing's bomb, dying in the explosion. Wheeljack would chase Dreadwing to Earth, to where they are now. The other wreckers at Team Prime are saddened by their friends' deaths. Wheeljack still leaves furious when Fowler starts to chastise him, but he's even more angry in canon due to the more recent events of the deaths of their wrecker friends. On the Nemesis, Dreadwing meets up with the Cons, with Megatron saying that he is glad to see him, as more forces are better than none. Dreadwing learns of what happens to his brother, and so decides to get his vengeance. Bulkhead, Springer, Jetfire, and Perceptor go after Wheeljack, with him trying to convince him to go back to the Ark, but he snaps and, just like a can, says all the names of the dead wreckers, and how they need to take action, but the others are against it. Then they get a message from Dreadwing. Perceptor and Springer still disagree and so don't go, while Bulkhead and Jetfire decide to follow Wheeljack to protect him. The 3 arrive at the location, but would fall into the same trap as Dreadwing, with the exception that he added a few more bombs to deal with Jetfire. Jetfire and Wheeljack find themselves under the rubble until Optimus, Perceptor, and Springer arrive and rescue them. And so, the 5 arrive to the shipping port and find Bulkhead strapped to the bomb, with Optimus, Springer, and Jetfire going to look for Dreadwing, while Perceptor and Wheeljack try to disarm it, but have no luck. Even though Perceptor tries his best, Wheeljack questions his choices, causing them to have a little fight between each other about which is the right answer. The other 3 bots manage to find and fight Dreadwing, beating them up a lot easier, and so they force him to deactivate the bomb, but he uses a bomb distraction to get away. Wheeljack thanks Prime and the others for the help, and he actually decides to stay, since there are a lot more of his Wrecker friends on the team, and after losing so many of them, he doesn't want to leave the side of his Wreckers anymore. So, he stays behind and joins Team Prime, getting his Earth vehicle mode and his new body. And that is where we're going to leave things for right now. Thank you all for watching. This is probably one of the longest parts. Next time we continue with more Season 2. I'll see you guys in Part 8.